Yes. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance if you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. The purpose for this meeting is to reorganize, and there's one item that we have to vote on due to time constraints. And I'll turn the meeting over to Laurie now, who will...
Okay, we're going to start with the chairman of the board. Do I have any nominations?
I nominate Steve.
Any second?
I second the nomination for Steve.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's all right.
Yes.
Do you accept this?
You can do your own.
That was good.
Surprise. Congratulations.
Okay, so now at this point, you take over the meeting, and we need a vice chairman, a treasurer, a vice treasurer, and then we have a member.
So, well, okay. I'm going to stumble through my chairmanship of my first meeting. So we need a vice chair. What else,
A
really?
treasurer,
A treasurer,
a vice
a
treasurer,
vice treasurer,
and then we have a member.
and a member. Okay. So I'll entertain nominations.
I nominate Roberta Briggs for vice chairman.
Second.
Here we have a vote.
I second the nomination for Roberta
You
Briggs.
already did.
She already did.
Wendy
Oh,
already did.
okay. Oh, all right, didn't hear you.
Okay. So we put that to a vote. Ayes?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. And I guess we need a nomination for the treasurer.
I nominate Sharon Catino for treasurer.
I second.
Okay.
You know what?
Any discussion? I guess that's the
We're
way.
saying their names in the beginning.
No, you don't need to do that.
Oh, thank you.
We found that out in our training
Yeah, I
class.
think that's great.
Yes.
Do we have a vote for A? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I can't.
Yes. Chair votes yes. So that's unanimous.
Mhm.
And vice treasurer?
I nominate Rose Turner for vice treasurer.
Yes.
Second.
Okay. We take a vote? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
So that's unanimous. Congratulations, everybody. We shoveled the deck today.
Well, that was good. That was a good job.
Okay, so the next item is discussion of this thing from the state, and accepting this money.
Okay, what this is they send out this contract for any kind of money that we are to receive from the state. We have to, they give us a dollar amount that they're gonna give us, and then the conditions that we're taking that money under, and then if there are any changes due to any problems that we've had, like when we did the roofs, the architect didn't figure in the soffits weren't long enough to put the roof on. So the whole project had to go out to bid, and it did. But then we had to come back and ask for additional funds because the soffits weren't long enough. And this was during COVID, and instead of coming out to actually look at the roofs, they were zooming it on a picture of it. So when, that was one phase, but when the construction engineer looked at it, he said, you can't do this is not possible. So the design piece and the construction piece were at odds. But in fact, by law, we were required to have longer soffits, so it cost additional funds, and the state decided that they were gonna give us more money to cover the cost of these soffits. So that's what this is, an amendment to the original agreement. And now you have to vote to approve the additional money that they're gonna give us to cover the cost of that. And that's what that actually is. This is an amendment to the original agreement that we had to accept this money. So you have to vote to accept it, and then the chairman is gonna have to sign it, which would be you, because now we're voting. And then we'll submit this to EOHLC, which is the former DHCD. Okay, so all this is to accept that money and let them know that we are accepting it.
So these repairs have been done or haven't?
They've been
already
done.
So this is just catch up. Has the contractor been paid? So everybody's been paid, even though the funds weren't there. So how did that work?
The funds, they came out of our funds.
Yes.
Okay.
And they may have used another project in order to fund it, but this is just a catch-up grant that we have to approve, if the board so chooses to accept it.
That seemed pretty clear in the letter.
Did I explain it all right?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess I will entertain a motion to approve accepting these funds from the state.
Make a motion to approve contract for financial assistance in the amount of $321,471.
I second.
Okay, a vote? Yes?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. So unanimous.
Okay, so now you just have to sign this.
Doesn't that have to be an electronic signature?
Yes, but this has to be his signature. But the electronic piece is
Right.
after that. And the date.
Today, so 21st.
And that's it?
And that's it. So while we're all here, I know we have a meeting scheduled, or the regular Thursday meeting, which was
October 5th?
October 5th. I would like to change that to 1 o'clock again, if this time works good. No?
You can't because of the hearing.
We're having
Oh, that's right.
We have that public-
The public hearing.
public
Hearing
hearing.
posted 45 days ahead, and you can't change the date or the time. Otherwise, we have to go through all of the work again
Yes.
to set
That
it
was
up.
the annual plan
That's the annual
hearing.
So we
Oh,
can't.
that's right. Yeah, okay, you're right, okay. So we'll
But
deal with
going
that
forward
next time.
after that,
Okay. We'll
then
make it
that
an
would be a
agenda
different,
For the 5th, I guess.
Yeah, we have, it's scheduled for 10 a.m. on that.
Right,
Yeah.
that's right. That's already set in stone. Good point.
and we were required to give 45 days notice for that, and it has been posted everywhere, so
It doesn't
Okay.
take that long.
Just generically
And it's a
though-
quick-
It's quick.
it's quick.
Just generically though, what times work differently for people?
I'm gonna keep it on Thursday.
If you
Morning
were-
is better for me, and because of winter coming on.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's getting dark in the afternoon,
Mhm.
and
Right.
I have to get Uber or something anyway, so,
Right,
because I'm not driving anymore.
right. My question more would be just maybe later in the morning, well before sunset. I know it seems like it gets dark at 3:30 some days,
What
but
time are you suggesting?
I'm thinking, 12:30 or 1. Anywhere later than, anything later than 10 is better. Because 10 is really early. It's
You wanna
just
do
right.
7?
It's 7 in the morning would be better, actually. Like, I mean, literally,
No, I know.
it's just in the middle of the morning, which I find difficult. So, to me, it would be, joking aside, 7 is better than 10, and 1 is better than 10. So, like, I don't care which end we're on, but it's not very bright at 7 either. But,
Not right now, it isn't.
that's what I was hoping was 1 o'clock, but you don't seem to be comfortable with 1 o'clock, Roberta?
Yes and no, because I have other responsibilities as well in town.
And you made doctor's appointments based
That's
upon
right.
what we were doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And we're all
And they
leading
book way
doctor's
out.
appointments. Oh, no, you're not. You're not either.
Oh, yes, I am. Elderly disabled, that's me.
Yeah, right. So the next meeting's gonna be, we're trying to figure that out?
Well, the next meeting is
It's-
October 5th at 10 a.m. I
Yep.
think.
Yeah,
That's not
the
gonna
hearing that
change.
we have to have.
This is more just a
October
general
5th.
discussion as to whether,
5th, it's a Thursday.
Okay.
as to whether we can just shave it, push it forward a couple of hours.
Well, this is set, but going forward, we
Right.
can look at it,
Right.
look at it.
Can you change the meeting time at each meeting, at the end of each meeting, when you decide when to have the meeting? Can you decide on a time then, I mean, is that okay to do?
Well, on the board attendance that I have to submit after every meeting, they're looking for like the day of the week and a time. So I put in on that attendance what day we met. I mean, we've been meeting on Thursdays, but we used to meet on Tuesdays. So the days have in fact changed and the times have changed because at one point we were meeting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And in the
That was
winter, that
worse.
was not a
was
good
bad.
time because when we came out, it was dark.
Right.
So
It's not good for me.
we could turn around and change it as we go along, or we could have a set day and time, but people just need to know in advance so they can make their appointments around it.
Right.
But I mean, I'm gonna reflect in the board attendance that I submit every month to the state when we met, what the day was and what the time was.
Yeah.
And as long as that gets reported accurately, we're all set. So if some days work better than others in any given month, or if a time works better in any given month, then you can certainly change it. I'm just gonna reflect it in the board attendance
Right.
going
I
forward.
mean, the other committees that I'm on, but I'm not nearly as big or regular as this one. You know, we all just sort of figure out what works for everybody. Then, exchange 10 emails and then say,
Yeah,
whatever at 3 o'clock or whatever. But, this is a different animal. So it's better to keep it regular. I understand that. So both
Am I
for the
the only
tenants
one
and
that-
everybody else.
am I the only one that has a problem with 1 o'clock? If not, I will be here for 1 o'clock. That's
I
gonna
can
work.
always give you a ride home. So we can get around that.
Yeah, she doesn't live far. She's on Arrowhead.
About 10 minutes from
Okay,
here.
yeah, so, I mean, I understand,
All right,
I understand,
Okay. and these ladies are here, right here. I don't know how about, if it's good with you.
1 o'clock's better for you?
All right,
I mean, it
that's fine.
doesn't matter to me.
Okay, so if I get it right, so the November meeting then you want to do at 1 o'clock?
correct.
You want to keep it on a Thursday?
Well, we can set,
October.
We can't change that.
We could go, in November, we could certainly
yes,
change it to 1 o'clock.
but let's
And see how it
do
goes, we'll do
yes.
do 1 week and,
We can do more than 1 week. And of course, when it snows, we have to change the
Right.
meeting if the weather's bad, so.
right,
I'm very flexible. I can be very flexible, except for doctor's appointments
Me too.
and other boards and commissions that I happen to be on.
The other thing I wanted to ask, does anybody want a tour
yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
with maintenance? Maintenance will take,
Oh, sure. Good.
do you guys want a tour?
Yes, we'll do it.
Sure.
And that way you can see not just Packagug and Stoneville, but you can look at Auburn Heights, Pine Brook Court, Pheasant Court. Now, do
Good
you,
idea.
okay?
Yeah.
And that way you'll have at least an idea of what it is we're talking about when we're mentioning these developments.
It's an excellent idea.
As long as it's not going to interfere with the residents and their privacy.
Well, you're not going inside.
No, yeah, well,
You're not going in their
I
apartment.
thought people wanted to look inside. That's why I'm saying that.
Why, you want to have everybody in yours? I wouldn't want you coming in my house either. Right.
Building.
The community
You
room,
can get a sense of this.
and you can get an idea of
Yeah.
what we have there. And so when do you want to do that?
But I guess the question would be, when is it good for maintenance to do that?
Well, it's,
And we can
you
work
guys
around him.
kind of give me an idea of when, and we can work it out with maintenance, because they're going to be able to answer a lot more questions about like the mechanical
Oh, sure.
room and, because one thing that Steve had asked for was a list of the work orders, so he could get an idea of what we are actually doing for work orders on a day-to-day. So we ran a printout of the whole year. And it is kind of, it is kind of interesting to see how many times we have lights out and clogged drains and all this other. So we did do a work order list that's gonna come out. I did find the bylaws
Oh, good.
from the 70s. Where do you see?
Yes.
Where do you
it's
see
way
'em?
back.
Where do you see them?
That long, huh?
And you know what? When you had asked for them, I knew that I had seen them, and I knew the state should have had them, and they don't, and the town should have had them,
They don't.
and they don't. But I had found a book that I put together when I first took this job 17 years ago, and I never bothered to label the book, but it was in a black book, and it has all the original
Oh, cool.
inception of the housing authority and the bylaws. And I knew I had read about them at one point, but do you think I could find it? No. Well, I have since found them,
Yeah.
and they are very old. And where do you see that they were done on a typewriter? Not,
Computers,
no,
right?
it's not on a computer. They are on a typewriter,
Oh, my word.
and
Carbon paper.
Yeah.
they are kind of funny.
Yeah.
But the fact that nobody else has them kind of bothered me, because why didn't they have them? And they should have. So that'll be another thing that's gonna be going out.
Look at those.
Yep. And then
That'll be interesting.
an explanation of the pilot program and what we've paid over the years for pilot, payment in lieu of taxes. That's what we give to the town. And then there's all the insurance policies that we have, there's a whole list of those. The bank statements that we have, there's a whole list of those, so that you have an idea of what we have for accounts and where they are. That's gonna be in your next binder that you'll get at the next board meeting. Then as far as the accounting piece of it, when we asked the accountant, he said, oh, the board was gonna have to vote in order to change it. And then he told me that I'm gonna have to, I've been using QuickBooks for our piece of it, but he wants me to switch over to the Public Housing Authority software program in order to make it easier to generate the reports.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna have to learn that,
If you've been using QuickBooks, what version of QuickBooks do you have?
the oldest.
Enterprise?
To be honest with you, Wendy, I have no idea. It was the system,
QuickBooks has an access database built into it, and you can very easily generate those reports by selecting what the information is that you're looking for.
so you don't think I have to change over to the other?
I would say take a closer look at it before, jumping into that, maybe.
Because all the information is
Did you
there.
use the QuickBooks, Betty? I have in the past, but I think Gary is thinking it's easier for him.
Oh, it's easier for him.
Oh, okay.
But not easier
But
for
not easier for Laura.
us.
Yeah.
Not all QuickBooks export, but if it exports, then you should be
It's
able to
pretty old, you
import
should
it.
be, yeah.
And it's,
But-
this software was prior to me, so this is going back 17 years. But it worked for us, and I didn't want everything to be tied into the web, because if something were to happen, this is separate from the web. This is our checking account system.
Right.
And when we have problems with the web, as far as the other software, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Whereas
Sure.
it was one thing, he was never able to control what I inputted because it's a standalone system. And he didn't like the idea, like I have to print out all the reports to him the way I print out the reports to the board. And if you actually look at what those reports,
So you can't export an accountant's copy?
I've been printing out what I've been printing out for everybody else.
Because there's a feature built into QuickBooks, and it could be that it wasn't in this version, that's why I asked what version you're working with, where you can export an accountant's copy, and you just send them the file.
Because even when we had the previous,
But if he's not using QuickBooks,
and he
then
isn't,
that defeats that.
he wants everything on the web, so when he's down at his house in Florida, he can just go in to our system and do his work
Yeah.
from Florida. But the reality of it is, I never felt comfortable with that. Like, we don't have any account, any internet banking. I physically go to the bank, to the teller, to make all the deposits, any transfers. No money ever comes out. And I said to them, if any money is ever withdrawn from here, then you need to call us. Because it's only transfers, and I do them in person, and it's only deposits, and I do those in person. Because I've had my accounts hacked. Somebody applied for unemployment while I was working during COVID. I don't feel real good about any of the,
Technology.
because I have been hacked, and they were given my unemployment when in fact I worked through the whole thing. So it was like, why am I gonna feel comfortable having the housing authority stuff tied in like that? I mean, maybe it's not, maybe I'm not in the present day, but it's worked for us. We've nobody has able to touch the housing money.
And
The
that's
original-
why you feel comfortable.
The original QuickBooks was relatively solid at the time because
I think that's
everybody
why.
was using
Solid.
different little pieces. I remember in our business, we used to have we had a form with all the orders, we had another form, did they pay? Like, it was like very archaic. And then QuickBooks came out,
Yeah.
and I was actually working on my own system, and I said, wow, this is stupid, I'll just use theirs. And then as QuickBooks has gotten newer, it's actually, I don't think it's gotten actually better. To me, it's just,
No,
it's still
now
based on the
everything's gone
same
to the
core.
cloud, though, too.
Yeah, and now everything's on the cloud, which
Yeah.
is crazy
Yeah,
anyway.
you have to have a subscription to it now, and it's a
Yeah.
monthly payment, and, yeah.
Well,
So, but the one that they came out with originally, it was really hard to get data out of that thing.
see, in
It
this.
did what it did, and that's all it did.
Yeah.
In this, whenever I, process the check registers, I mean, it does exactly what I want it to do. You just have to understand that on the side, it says where the money is going. Like, if it says prorate on the side, it is on that report that you get, but that means it's been prorated between state and federal. If it says 6671, that's state elderly, 7051,
Right, but it doesn't show any of that, it just shows the prorate.
and then, but if you look, prorated means it was gonna go between the two.
Well, I understand that, but I think, you know how you can make the columns wider, so maybe you can make the column wider so it shows what account. That was the only thing that was missing, it shows prorated, or, I don't have a check register with me, but we had.
Hang on 1 minute.
And sometimes you can just make those columns broader, and take other columns that you don't wanna
Right.
look at out of it.
Right.
That's why I say it's got an access database in the background.
Is that like a spreadsheet? Some spreadsheet?
Yep,
We use that in the military all the time.
yeah, and you can select what data you want to
Yes,
show on each
yes.
different report.
That was the good part of it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I already printed off August. So if you look on here, and you look in the memos, okay, so this was rent that went in, this was the dollar
Right,
amount, and see how
right.
it says SH, that's Stoneville Heights. Now, if you look in the revolving,
I think I was more looking for the
see how?
ones.
Six,
See,
six,
now
seven,
it's-
one.
Yeah, on the previous one, So it's under the memo then?
It's under the memo, because I
Okay.
have to put that for him, so he knows where to charge it.
Right, and that's why I asked
know-
to see it on the report too.
And it's been on the report, I don't think you just realized what it was.
Well, mostly, the memo hadn't been selected. I'll pull the other ones that I have, but that's great. Yeah, that's exactly what, like, see, just a split.
See where it says HUD PV?
Yep.
That's where it was charged, the federal section
Right.
in the back of package shop. Same thing with this, anything involving, like electrical, it has to spell out exactly.
So the HUD doesn't have an account number, it's just HUD SH?
That's the Stoneville account. But HUD
Right,
also
right,
has
right.
PV, and it also has Pine Brook Court. So that's why I have to specify where it went.
Right, but where the memo is the account, this is the account number, right?
Right.
Correct?
Yep,
In the memo here, instead of it being an account number, it's just at HUD SH. Okay,
Right.
that makes sense.
and that's because the state refers to their property as 6671 for elderly disabled, 7051 for family. So they have specific numbers, whereas the federal program just has where the location is. But do you see where it is?
Yeah, I do see it, yeah.
What version of Windows are you running? You know,
We got back, I got a full
Sure,
yeah.
no worries.
is it Windows? But it has to be Windows.
It's
gotta
not
be-
11
It's
now?
gotta be
It's up
Windows.
to 11.
It's up to 11, yeah, I just upgraded.
I probably don't have the most current,
Yeah, I'm sure you don't, that's why I'm asking, because
I
some of
probably
the
don't.
software wouldn't be able to run this, so I'm just trying to date
The computer itself.
dating the OS would date
Yeah.
the
And
operating
without a
system.
chart of accounts, those don't make much sense to me. So if you had a chart of accounts that we could have with the registered only one time, that would help to tie it all together.
well, one of the workshops that I went to down the Cape was an accountant, and she explained the process. So I'm gonna get the handout, they didn't give any handouts. So I'm gonna get the handouts, and then we can look at those and see if that puts more clarification
Sure.
on this,
Yep.
okay?
I think migrating off of this is probably gonna solve a lot of these issues about
Yes.
where the money is, and what the category is.
Right.
Because this, if
The transparency of it.
you know, what, you think this was started when?
This
in
was
the
before me.
80s?
I didn't
When
change
did you
anything.
start?
2007.
That's when I came.
So
All right.
probably
So-
QuickBooks
Yeah, I mean, this could
3
be,
or 4, yeah.
yeah, I mean, this could be,
Because I didn't upgrade any of, because I was comfortable using it,
Yeah,
yeah.
and the auditors never had any questions.
as long as it's working.
And we just got audited last month, and there was only one exception to the whole audit. So the auditor sent me the copy back, so you'll get a copy of the audit. And it was just a question of, two rents weren't calculated properly, and I reached out to the software company to make sure they put in a reminder. It was like a $300 deduction for having a head of household, but it's small money in the long run, but it's still an error, and it's still something that I'm gonna have to correct and reach out. State recommended that I reach out to the software company to have it put in automatically so that it pops up,
Right.
because it doesn't.
Right.
So are the systems old? Yeah, I didn't change anything because it was working. But if it's not working now, then we are gonna have to move forward and change it. But I didn't think making it easier for somebody to access it online
That's right.
when nobody was complaining about it made a whole lot of sense.
Right.
Because
It's
this
just
is,
very hard to manage from this. Because when I had my own business, you can't, it was like, this is probably from the 90s, actually. Because I started my business in 87. So, and we ran with QuickBooks for a number of years.
and this probably is, because I
So
never
it's-
would have changed it
it's-
as long as it worked. But if it's
Yeah.
not working, then I gotta,
No, money comes in, money goes out. It's not rocket science. But from a management point of view, because of, like, it would be nice for you to be able to go into the computer and say, how much did we spend on water heaters this year? And be able to just,
No, you're right.
and I
you
still.
should be able to do that.
I still could I still could work that out because I know the vendors that we use to buy the water
Right, so
heaters.
you can, that's
And I
right,
can
you're
run a
back into.
printout. So, I mean, I have been able
Right.
to provide things when they were asked, but I really wasn't sure what you were asking for because I figured we had what we needed.
Right, so at the end of the month, when you have input everything and you're pretty much ready to close that month and move on, not that you close it every month, but do you then run the report and take a look and make sure that everything was charged to the correct accounts and all of that, right? So that's your double check.
That's what I have to
At the end
do.
of the month, right?
And even the rents, all the deposits that I make, I keep copy of all the checks, keep a copy of all the deposit slips, and they're like, you don't need to do that. I'm like, oh, yes, I do. Because I need to know what,
Well, again, if that's your comfort level.
and it
it's,
matches, it's old school. It matches up the deposit with the
Yep.
checks, and it, so that if something's wrong, I know immediately when I go to match up the deposit slip with the actual deposit, that there's a problem. And when they audited, they were like, it was pretty damn clear, because you need to provide all the documentation, and we had no issues with that. They had no issues with this, because they can't really say it doesn't work. Is it up to date? No. But if we need to go up to date, like if I need to get a different software.
It's a solid audit trail, what you're doing. And that's a very solid audit trail, because you've got the record, you've got the paperwork, you've got-
right.
and if anybody wants to know, but the problem is, of course, is, people pick up their phone and can say, what was, George's name in the 12th century? And, and you can
I
get.
still have the ledger cards from
You
before
know,
we were
and
even.
it's like, so like, we've got so much information at our fingertips, that it's crazy. But part of that is because it's in databases that are accessible. And so, and the problem is databases of 1995 and 2023, it's like horses and rocket ships. I mean, it's just,
See,
both will get you where you're going, but they're just
See, I
totally
kind of
different.
looked at, like when we put in to do the rent calculations, or when we go to rent an apartment, it's all people's personal information is in that system. So that if we were to get hacked, then the social security numbers, date of birth, all that information is there.
Well, the new software though would be, it would be encrypted, and it would be terribly, unless the whole town got hacked.
But see,
Is
we're
that
not even tied
system-
into the town.
Is that
That's what
system,
I'm saying, if, it would have to be like this huge,
Data breach?
data breach.
is the system that you're using to calculate people's rent, is that on your computer, or is that on the web?
It's on the web.
And you're just typing it in?
I'm just
So they're
typing it in.
storing all the data, and they're doing the calculations.
They're doing the
And you're
calculation.
just getting the answer.
And that's why when I had this problem with these two rents, it was like an odd thing, but it's still, they were entitled to that deduction. So now I had to answer to that, and I said, we're gonna go back and look to see if this was an isolated thing with just a family and an elderly, or if other people were involved. And then it's small money, because it's a $300 a year deduction. So it's not, like even the auditor said to me, it's not gonna amount to a lot of money, but it's something that I need to fix. So I'll go back and fix it, and then going forward. But she said the software company should have caught this, and they didn't. You know what I mean? They usually make the deductions themselves, but for some reason, this deduction isn't there. So I need to contact them and make sure that going forward, the system will pick up in case I don't, so that we don't have this problem going forward. That was the only exception out of the whole audit that we got, the only one. And that meant procurement, that meant the rent's coming in, like, I don't know if they
So
were
have
wild
they-
about my copies, but the copies of all the bank statements, there were no issues other than this rent thing.
As far as you know, have they updated that software yet?
No, I'm sure they didn't. Because I asked the guy when I saw him at the conference, I said, what am I gonna do about that? And he says, well, if you haven't received a response, you're gonna have to, maybe they didn't know what I was talking about.
Because you should be able to have them update the software and then rerun all the data.
And we're not
Instead
the
of
only
you
ones
looking
that.
for needles in a haystack.
Right.
That's what their job and service is they're supposed to catch that, and, you know,
And then
and then
reprocess.
reprocess all the
And
data.
I was just gonna
and
go
then-
through everybody that had a two-person household and just, because we don't have a lot of them. Most of them are single tenant. So there weren't a lot of them. So I know this isn't gonna be a lot, but the bottom line is, the state recommended that the software company put this in automatically. Because on the federal side, it's there. Any deductions that have to be made. And maybe other housing authorities have had the same problem. I can't be the only one out of 286 housing authorities that are, but they gotta fix ours.
Some of the auditors will pick it up, right?
Yeah,
And that was only a few weeks ago, so
Mm-hmm.
they could still be working on it.
but that was the only thing that the auditors found. And they look, when you see the audit, they look through, and it's very stressful, but they asked us for all the documentation and we were able to provide everything, which was a huge relief. And this problem, it's already been reported back to the auditor of what my plan was, but I had already spoke to the state about, this is what happened, how do you think I should go about this? So they advised me how to go about it, I submitted that, and that actually went to the state today. But that was the only thing in the whole audit that they found, which
It's huge.
I was really happy about,
Yeah.
because you just don't know. So that I think is good. I think maybe we should look into getting, like, either get rid of QuickBooks and go with something else, or update QuickBooks so that at least we're in the,
Right. You had mentioned that the accountant, at one point, you had mentioned you could have the accountant come in and sort of, we could
Yeah.
pepper him with questions and everything. But you also just said he likes to go to Florida. So my
Well-
question, is he a snowbird? Is this gonna be something we should do sooner rather than later?
November. He said-
he's coming in November?
He said he can come in November.
But the bottom line is, we are gonna have to vote on the budget revision prior to that,
Right.
because,
It's
and the
due.
whole thing with the budget revision is the bottom line is, stays exactly the same. The only difference is he moved money around in between the different
I
accounts.
could see that.
Like our maintenance payroll is less because we no longer have part-time maintenance. So the money that was budgeted for those positions has been transferred into contract costs. Do you know what I mean? So he said the bottom line is gonna stay the same. It's just the line items in between are changed, and he's expecting the board to vote on the October 5th meeting so we can get the revision in by the end of the month, because otherwise we'll be late. But I want to go through and identify all the issues with the plumbing and what the issues were, because I want to, all the state issues, I want to go back to the state and say, this is what we found, and can you help us with this? Because we paid tremendous amount of money for the toilet wipes and the AC unit pumps. What they found was we have condensate pumps in those mini splits. They're not even allowing those to be installed anymore. And we're loaded with them. Condensate, they're failing. We're having to have a plumber come out and repair them, replace the pumps at big money.
Is there any class action or anything going on with that you know of?
I don't know, but I can ask.
Yeah.
Because we didn't pay for these pumps. We got these through that lean program, Rise Engineering. We got them for free. And they were supposed to save us money in the long run, but in reality, they didn't. Because we're having problems with all these pumps failing, and they didn't even set them up the same. At Stoneville, it was done first. Because the heating system was failing out here, we had to do something. We had an old storage heating system that was obsolete, and the one man that actually serviced them retired. He was from New Hampshire. So we needed to do something. So when this AC mini split thing came in, well, we thought, well, okay, it's free. They're going to install it. We just have to maintain it. Theirs drained to the outside. So they're not having the water coming down the wall. Whereas at Packagug, they did a completely different system. They used these condensate pipe pumps, and the water is draining inside the unit. So when the pump is failing, the water's going right down the wall.
Where was it draining to after it was pumped?
Unbelievable.
I think the floor.
Well, it can.
If it fit, no, it
It'd
should
have to
have
go
been
to a
inside.
drain somewhere.
It should have been inside. It's inside the unit.
Floor, it was dripping down to the first.
But that's when it backed up and was failing.
But it's got to be
When you
something
put
with the pump.
in, it's just like you said, some drained outside,
Yep.
some have to drain. If you're draining it inside, it's got to go to a drain. It has to go to
And
the
it's,
same
it has to be in
drain
the
or
system.
somewhere.
It has to be in that system, because when the pump fails, the system fails, and the water's running down the wall, and if the tenant doesn't catch it in time, we're ended up replacing the flooring, because we're worried about mold.
Okay.
So it
The
becomes,
condensate pump, it's just like a little tiny,
well,
but it's just moving it's like a dehumidifier. It's just taking whatever's collecting. It's not a lot of water, which is why there's so little. It's not moving a lot of
until
water.
it hits the
But
power.
if you keep throwing it against the wall, it's gonna destroy something.
So that's something that during the tour, that they can show you how, we'll find an apartment, they could show you how it's draining. But Stoneville was differently than Packagug. Stoneville was first, all of a sudden we got this problem. But I have a guy that's gonna come out from the state and assess this, and maybe they can help us with the cost of fixing this. I mean, we gotta get rid of these
Just
pumps, we
replacing
can't
the
keep
pumps
doing this.
Should be, this is not, this is not a, a complicated
You
thing
wouldn't think,
here.
but we gotta get
Fish
somebody
tanks
that's gonna
all over the
pay.
world are running little pumps. I mean, you're not moving a whole lot of water here.
No, but it's like we're,
To get the money.
we're,
But you gotta
if we
get it
can recover
fixed.
the cost of this
Yeah.
from somebody,
Yeah,
that's our goal.
right.
And if not, then, but we have to ask.
They gotta stop doing damage, for sure.
And they're not even allowing this anymore.
You just said something about adding the accountant on the 5th? Okay. Then do we have,
Is he coming on the 5th?
that's what she
No,
just,
that would be
somebody just
November.
said,
You have to vote on it, on the revision on the
in
5th.
November, right?
On the 5th
On
of
the 5th of
October,
October,
you have to
because
vote
Yes,
on
that's what I'm
the
saying.
revision.
November
It'll have to
1st.
be on that
He'll
agenda.
come.
Right.
He'll come in November to talk about the new budget
Yes, yes.
before he goes to Florida in January.
So these are just some things that we're working on right now.
Well, they the same people that put them at Stoneville.
Exact same people.
That's a problem.
It could be different hardware, you wouldn't have the same problem.
It's no
So
installer, it's.
we do have some stuff going on, but I did make them aware of all these separate issues, and I'm sending them emails to say, oh, just so you know, that this is the problem, and we need somebody to come in and help address it.
I just wanted to make sure that whatever we are gonna vote on extra is gonna be on that agenda for the 5th.
And when you
October.
determine the agenda, then we'll go forward on that. But in the meantime, I gotta figure out with the software, where we're at with that. I mean, whether you wanna go with the web-based thing, or if you wanna continue with the QuickBooks thing.
We
Well, I
can't
think
vote-
some degree we have
We
to,
can't vote on that today, right?
No, oh no,
Okay, because
we're not
this
voting
is
on
our
anything
agenda.
else. This is just discussion.
Discussing it.
And in the meantime,
that.
before the next meeting, I can get more answers on what's available to us, and you decide what you want me to do. You know?
we can change the October 5th notice is already done.
Yes.
Yeah, we
But
can't.
we can still
You
change.
can revise it.
We can
Yeah.
revise that.
Yes,
to
we
the
can,
day
we can
before,
add
the
to
day
it, we just
before.
can't
Okay.
take it away, we've gotta have the
Okay.
hearing that day.
Right, no, I understand that. Okay, so we can just
That's
add
what
a
I
bunch
said,
of
we
different
can add it
conversations to
on
that,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah,
but,
And the hearing piece of it is pretty straightforward because it was done through CyberSense, and they plug in all the the issues, and then that whole big packet was done by them based upon the information that they had. So going forward, we can add to that agenda because the annual thing is gonna be pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
So we have other things that you can add to the agenda that you want. Anybody that has input
Yeah.
into that agenda, we just contact Steve and let him know. And I'll have some more information on this other stuff by then.
Okay.
That's good.
My operating habit is you can put the kitchen sink on the agenda, and we could just blow through it and not discuss it, or discuss it for 20 minutes. It makes no difference to me. Like, there's no need to have short agendas. You can have long agendas.
Yeah, this
We
was
can-
just
Are you
because,
and we
operating
can-
on a
We
server?
can,
this is just because of the
Or
Right,
do you
no,
have
right.
individual computers, but are you on a network? On a network.
Yeah.
So when was the last time the server was replaced? Anybody know that? No.
No?
you've got 3 computers on the network in the office, 3 or 4.
We have 5 different computers,
5 workstations.
and mine are all old, except for one.
And does the state give you money to replace that as needed?
And we have, but not, yeah.
Once.
Not recently? No.
But you can all see each other's data, can you work on the same things at the same time, or are you kind of
Yeah.
locked out from each other?
Yeah.
So they're on a
Okay,
network server.
yeah.
I
I mean,
guess
it
the,
works.
I guess the Windows
It doesn't matter if it's old,
version
it
will
does
tell you,
work.
yeah,
Yeah,
the Windows version will tell you,
right,
basically.
right.
And maybe you need to do a tour of the office. I mean, that wouldn't
Yeah,
hurt.
nothing,
No.
the more we know, the more we know.
That's
And
right.
see, we tend to function on a day-to-day basis because everything comes in all at once. But I
Right.
mean, as far as, the software that we're using, I mean, unless somebody complains about what they're getting, we're
Right.
going along.
Right.
And as long as I can provide what people are asking me for, then I figure we're doing all right. But we may be needing to upgrade
You
too.
may find that it doesn't need to be upgraded at all, but it's just.
It doesn't
take a
hurt to
at it.
look.
Right, exactly.
It doesn't hurt to look. Because going forward, I think things are just gonna get more difficult.
No, it's gonna get easier. It's gonna
Well,
get easier.
yeah, if we're using the right
Quality
software.
is easier, like, and if you keep up with stuff, it's easy, like, it becomes easier. You
As long
know?
as you have the money.
You gotta have the money, you gotta have the energy, you gotta have the people.
Yeah.
That's right.
There's a lot of things that,
Sometimes we
Create.
can't do what we want to do because the
No,
money's not
obviously.
there.
And if you have to
Pick and
hire
choose.
people, you need to be able to explain to them what it is you're actually looking for and can they provide it. Like everybody always says, oh yeah, we can do that, and then they realize, oh,
they make it up as they go along.
yeah.
Yeah.
So when you have an issue with a computer or something, Rick, who takes care of that? Betty? You're laughing.
Yeah,
Got a hammer. and
I'm
decide.
old, and I'm the computer expert.
I mean, we've
But-
used Staples, in the past to address some of the issues, and we really haven't had,
We haven't.
Yeah,
for what we need, we really haven't had a jam, because we were audited 3 times last year. They did 19, 20, and 21, all last year. So now we're finally just doing 22.
yeah.
So they identified different issues in those 3 years, but nobody ever said, well, your computer system is outdated, because we were able to provide them with answers to the questions that they asked. But going forward, should we be reviewing what we have based upon what we need?
Well, like with all the buildings and everything, you have a maintenance plan and you have, things programmed out.
Mm-hmm.
And the same should be happening with your equipment.
Mm-hmm.
your office
Or do
equipment as
you?
well.
Maybe that's the first question. Like, do you have
Yeah.
a
Capital.
spreadsheet or something which is triggering what's getting upgraded, inspected.
No.
Like, so you don't because the computer is a great tool in terms
You
of,
gotta keep upgrading them. My
Well-
Windows was 8.5, and it kept popping up, it's not gonna be good with what you've got, it's not gonna do. So I brought it to a guy, and he brought it up to 11, I think, and I said, even if I can get 10, that would be great. And that was Scott.
But we haven't really had any big issues as far as reporting. You know what I mean? Anything that state or
You don't
federal.
want to either.
And this is the thing, everything is changing.
Yes.
So do we need to change ours? Yes.
I'm not thinking
But I'm
about
not-
reporting. I'm thinking more about the statement that everything on the west side or the north side, whatever it was, all of those windowsills are peeling, right? And so that should have been caught beforehand, which is fine. We can create a system of work orders and encouraging residents to be a little bit more proactive in complaining instead of thinking it's normal. So there's a lot of different issues there. But on the flip side, is from a management point of view, it should have been inspected already and you would have known
And
from
they
the
were,
inspection.
they were
Right.
inspected,
Or
but
maybe they all, because they could have all failed at the same time, which also happens, right? So,
well,
but,
and this is the thing, when they're inspected, they're only reporting certain things.
Right.
So,
So what the tenant has to do is call in a work order
mhm,
and say, this needs to be done.
that's true. So we have inspections coming up.
That's
So
good. That's good.
that'll be one
So
item. to-
say if somebody has lived in their apartment 20 years, their kitchen floor has never been replaced. Is that a work order, or is that?
They usually pick that out when they inspect.
And it depends if the kitchen floor is damaged. Do you know what I mean? If it's not,
to the point that they can't get it clean when they wash it.
well,
It's been there for
It's
so
worn.
long.
It's worn.
It's worn so bad.
and that should have been addressed long before now.
Exactly.
I'm
And the-
surprised it wasn't picked up at an
Exactly.
inspection.
I'm surprised too.
You have a lot of people that don't complain
right, well, that's natural.
and don't ever,
And we have a lot of people that complain all the time.
Right,
So we
right,
have,
right.
we have a mix.
But you can't, some of that stuff isn't gonna go away. There's also a limit to how much you can inspect in an inspection. You cannot
That's correct,
literally
yeah.
walk into a room and evaluate every little thing. So you have to do it in stages. Let's go look at the painting today. Let's go look at the floors today. Let's go, like because no brain can do this. Doing it, robots to do it. No human's gonna be able to do this. You gotta do it through a sequence of planning. But from, on your side, on the office side, there probably needs to be a database of every unit. So that if you have any question about any unit, you have a database that is gonna tell you everything you've ever done to
We
that
have that
unit.
in our system. I can pull up
You can, from every room?
any, yeah,
Okay.
in our
So if
system.
that's
I can pull up the
searchable-
unit and what was done, whether the carpet was replaced, whether there was painting, whatever. Appliances, it's all
Okay,
it's all there. But maybe as we inspect, we should start pulling. And a lot of times the residents don't want us to even go in because then you find they're hoarding or they damaged the rug and they don't want to have to pay for the replacement of it.
She's right.
So there is some of that going on, but
yeah.
I think when we do the inspections this fall, those are some issues that we can in fact address.
I think you get tenants that complain amongst each other rather than call it in and say, this really needs to be looked at.
And then they say, oh, the office didn't do anything about it, when in fact we
When
didn't even
we
know
didn't
about
know.
it.
That's right, so they need to know, you have to call it in.
But we will be inspecting the units, all of them, this fall.
Are people uncomfortable calling in? Would they rather send it in, email it in, text it in? Are
They
there
can do
different-
that.
They can do all of these different ways?
Yep.
Okay.
And a lot of times they've done the damage, so they don't want us to know. You go in and there's a big oil spill in the living room. Well,
They're not gonna
what was this
call.
about, you know? And that's the thing, but the bottom line is, if they don't report it to us until we inspect, how are we gonna know?
So how does that work? So somebody is, you know, they're not frying a turkey in their living room, and they've got a big huge oil spill in the middle of the
They're
carpet.
responsible for that spill,
Okay,
and they will be responsible for the replacement of that carpet. It's not anything the housing authority did. That's on them.
They should be.
okay,
That's on them.
okay.
I mean, if the ceiling collapsed and it caused damage to the rug, then obviously they're not responsible for that, unless they couldn't have caused the ceiling to collapse. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're only gonna get charged for what they did. They're not gonna get charged if, like, the system, if they had a water heater in their apartment and it leaked and it caused damage to the rug, then clearly that's not their fault. So you
So how
kinda
does
have,
that work, like, so I'm living in, you know, room 222B here, and I make a big mess, and I can't fix it myself, I assume, right?
no.
Okay, so that means I have to call the landlord. So the landlord, what is the landlord gonna say to me? And like, are we gonna get 3 quotes? Who's gonna do the work?
We are.
Am I gonna agree to it before you do it?
You don't
or
have
am
to
I gonna
agree to
wait?
it. Oh, no.
So you have so once you know,
Yes.
you have the authority to say, we're fixing it.
Yep. And,
So
oh, by
this
the
is
way,
why-
you
And by the
caused
way, This
this.
is what this costs.
And
Yep.
this is why people are afraid to report it, because they're a little bit at
Well-
your mercy at that point.
Well,
So
they
how
are.
do you take that fear and bring it down to, I'm gonna get a new rug, this is great.
You're gonna
And
get a
it's
new
cost
rug
me
that
a
you have
reasonable
to pay
amount of
for.
money.
And if it's $3,000 and you can't afford that, then we're gonna do a payment agreement. And we're gonna break it down in installments that the resident can agree to, that they can afford. So it's, say, a $3,000 expense. Well, if you can go $50 a month towards that, then that's what you're gonna pay. I mean, we're not gonna put anybody to the point where they can't afford to pay.
Right.
What's the point in that?
How about if they never report it, they move out, what happens then? You find all this damage.
Usually we know before that.
Hmm.
Once we know somebody's,
So there's no security deposit?
No
or
security
anything?
deposit.
Oh,
there is no security deposit
okay.
here. So it's like, if we have an idea that somebody's moving out, then we'll go in and inspect. But 9 times out of 10, we've already known that there was an issue in an apartment.
Yeah.
Because the other tenants around them
And now
will,
they're moving out in 30 days, so payment plan is impossible, so then
No.
what happens?
depending on how bad it is, then we can take them to a small claims court, or we can just eat the cost of it if we know we're not gonna get any money. And a lot of these, we've had issues with them in the past. I mean, we always have the option of taking them to small claims court for the damage, but then you gotta weigh out, how much did it really cost to replace the rug? I mean, in the long run, are we even gonna get the money?
Right.
It's
Because,
typical landlord issues.
right,
You're
but you're
happy to
still,
you're happy for them to be gone so that you can.
but you're still in subsidized housing, so our biggest goal is to get them out.
Right.
They weren't a tenant good standing, and we need to cut our losses
Mm-hmm.
and just go.
And housing court is favorable to the tenant
Mhm.
in here, so, yeah,
So we get,
very much.
you have to go, Wendy?
No, I just was getting a call.
Okay.
How often does all this kind of thing happen?
We don't have a lot of people move out. So if there's a problem, we have a lot of repayment agreements. We do. And,
People make messes, so that's,
well, and this is the
Understandable.
thing. And other residents will complain so that we know to go in because there's an issue. Like hoarding is an issue. So we gotta get somebody to come in, impartial, to inspect and issue them a notice to quit. I mean, they're either gonna clean it up or they need to go. And that's the problem. Yes, it is public housing, but it has to be decent, safe, and sanitary for everybody. So we can't have one apartment with a bunch of pests and they're going through the whole building.
Right, right,
We can't have that.
right.
So we issue a notice to quit, and a lot of times they move out. And then we cut our losses and just say, hey, listen,
Just do a full remodel.
Yep.
Move on.
yeah, and just get rid of them. Because we don't want bugs going through the whole building. And fortunately, we haven't had that as an issue. You know, because residents will complain. They're a slob, what are you gonna do about it? And there could be mental health issues involved in why these people have problems cleaning up their apartment, and that's something that we have to address. You know, once you file a 30-day notice to quit, then you can get other agencies in to help these people. Because the bottom line is you want to preserve their tenancy. You know, I mean, we don't want to be kicking people out if there's things that we can get help for.
That's right.
You know, the senior center has advocates over there, so we gotta make use of what we have, elder services. There's different agencies that we can contact
Right.
for the residents. Because our goal is not to evict, our goal is to sustain our residents as long as they're complying with their lease.
But if you're doing all that, what happens if you keep doing it, and then, I mean, I used to deliver mails there when I first came in, back in 2000, what was it? I came in when you came in,
7.
and honest to God, you couldn't find the counter. It was stacked this high, and then I'd go over to, like, in a parlor, you know, the table, stacked this high. You don't put this stuff, you have to put it on top of something. And the sides were, I mean, you can't put that stuff near the heaters and stuff. Back then it was the heaters.
And it's
It was-
independent living.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So once we get a note, you know, somebody says, oh, by the way, their place is, like maintenance will let us know that there's an issue in the apartment.
It's awful.
Then it's like you gotta try to approach
Is
the
that when you
family.
get elder services and the family
Mhm.
involved in it?
Yep. Because a lot of times,
It
the
is a
family
mental
doesn't even
health
know.
issue, Right, yeah.
Yes, it is,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's awful, I can't even imagine it.
And it's not good for the resident either to be living in
No,
filth.
no,
Well,
no.
plus it's a fire trap and,
Yeah.
you know.
That's
all
what
kinds
a
of
fire trap, that's just what it was.
And then it's like you're picking on me, and it's like, well,
No.
I'm
no,
trying to help you, but.
it's not healthy to be living in this environment.
No, not at all.
But during COVID, it was tough to get the Board of Health to come out for anything, because they weren't gonna put themselves at risk. So we had like 3 years of stuff that now we're in the process is like, okay, COVID is technically over,
That's right.
and going forward, we're gonna have to inspect as if it was over. And you gotta give people that have issues notice so they can get some help. Okay?
It's a big job we have.
So
It is, of course.
It is,
contact you for agenda items.
please. Okay. Anything else?
No, sir.
Oh, were you setting up a class, another class for,
We're waiting to get a response.
they're waiting to hear from them? Okay.
We're waiting
Because
to
I
get it.
requested another class for education for the board,
Good.
but it's gonna be an all-day one, probably.
So we'll see.
Just let us know what day, we won't put anything down for that day.
That's right.
Right. All
We
right,
don't
I
know,
guess-
yet because we're waiting to hear from them now.
We have to find out, when do you want to take a tour?
Oh, right. So I guess office tour and facilities tour.
Well,
Or do you
office
wanna do 'em
tour
separate?
to a certain extent because of the confidentiality of
Yes.
Right, I realize that.
information, but I mean, that's not gonna
We're
be,
looking at information, we just wanna see where you're working,
It's-
what your
I
workstations look
understanding
like,
of
where
it.
your server, all that kind of stuff.
so that would be not an issue.
Wouldn't that be a good time to be able to go into different apartments and then you could find out if they're hoarding?
Yeah, but no.
Yeah, but you can't go into,
No.
you can't go into
We're not
anybody's
there, we
apartment.
can't be there
No.
to inspect.
No, 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 no,
We're
no.
just there to,
Yeah.
we
No,
got
you
really-
cannot.
The common
Yeah.
areas and,
You just-
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Because you gotta look at the parameters of what a board member
Right.
is. You can't violate any resident's privacy, cannot. I mean, we have people with issues with hoarding, but we can get a professional hoarder person in to say, hey, listen, this is,
How
You know?
long does that go on though, the hoarding, before you find out? Because
well,
They're
this
not
is the
gonna
thing,
say
we're
they're not
required
gonna
to
say
inspect
they
annually.
don't say anything.
They're
Okay.
annual inspections, unless we know that there's a problem in a certain, like maintenance says, oh my God, we couldn't even get in there, it's that bad. Then we can inspect up to 4 times a year. 4 times a year.
Good.
That's good.
So there are avenues for us to take, but the bottom line is, these people have rights,
That's right,
and we have to respect their rights.
that's true.
And we're not even supposed to talk about anything from
Any specific-
outside of the
Nope.
meetings.
Right.
But we can discuss issues that we know we're having,
Right.
but we can't discuss specific apartments
Right,
or
right.
specific
In a
people.
general way.
In a general way, we can discuss it.
Right. So back to the tour. When is a good time to do the tour?
Anything after September, because I'm booked up for the rest of
Well,
September.
The month is coming pretty,
Yeah.
Right.
it's September.
October's
It's almost-
coming
yeah.
quick.
What is the November meeting?
it would be the
October
first
5th, it would be November.
Thursday.
First
It'd be
Thursday.
Thursday,
I think it's the fifth.
that's October, we mean. October 2nd would be the first
Thursday?
Thursday.
November
No,
2nd.
that's November 2nd, yes.
I was gonna say, no.
Okay, I will be here for that one.
October 5th is our next meeting,
What's the first Thursday in October?
The first.
and that's for that
is the
hearing.
5th. That's when we're having the meeting.
October 5th, and that's the annual plan.
Yes.
Right.
I will be gone, the 5th.
It's hard to get people all
6th.
together.
Are you referring to October or November?
Oh, October. November, I don't think, which day?
I mean, I guess the,
I fly out on the
The sh-
2nd.
October 5th,
maybe we, what about next
Any-
week?
Anytime.
Thursday, that's too soon.
Yeah, because then we're gonna be,
What about,
Anytime after,
Oh, yeah.
and if you can't do a tour together, you can always let us know when you can.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make the November 2nd meeting. I thought my flight was later in the day, but it's not.
Oh.
So, yeah,
you're not gonna make that the 5th?
the November 2nd, I'll make it for the 5th, but not the 2nd.
So we can, even if
we
it's
could
just
change that
you,
now.
Wendy, on a tour. We'll just
Yeah.
have maintenance show you the properties and,
Because you're gonna do the tour on the 2nd of November?
no.
Oh,
We
okay.
could, we're not gonna do it on a meeting day, we can do it on
You
any
can do it
day.
any day.
And we can do it in the afternoon, because the maintenance staff is here till 3:30.
Okay,
Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
even if you need to do an individual
Yeah.
tour,
Yeah.
we can just let the maintenance staff know
yeah.
to show you around, because they have a good grasp of
That's
the
good.
properties. So even if we can't do it all together as a group, then we can do it individually. They're here.
could we plan it like the end of October?
Yeah, like the 26th, maybe, Thursday? That
Right,
works for me,
26th.
October
6th
26th.
of October, I could do that.
Yeah.
What day is that?
It's a
It's
Thursday.
Thursday.
In the afternoon or in the? What time?
Probably the morning would be better, no, for them?
Was that November?
Well, it doesn't, they're here till
November,
3:30.
October, for the
My,
tour.
I'm booked
They
up
come in at
totally.
7.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, I'm not, October, okay.
So do we wanna do it at the end of the day when they're
Well,
Like around 2
do
o'clock?
we want to keep them late?
2?
No, you're not gonna keep them late. I'm not paying overtime for
No,
that.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Be better to do it earlier than later.
Well, what
in
about
case
like 2
because-
o'clock?
because
or
I'm
one
not
o'clock?
sure how we're
There's
gonna-
5 facilities we have.
That's
to
what I
go
mean,
to.
there's a lot
Oh,
there's a
yeah.
lot to cover.
And you really need to be.
And you're not going into anybody's apartment. You're gonna check the community room, the property, get an idea of what's going on. And then
I just-
give you an opportunity to talk to the maintenance staff, because they have their own way of viewing things.
Right. But just to see 5 properties, it's
I
gonna
think
take
2
some
is
time.
probably
They're not
too
huge.
late.
No, I know, but I would
So
just,
10
but just like when you go look for apartments for somebody, time goes away. I would do it in the morning, that's all.
So you wanna do October
And then-
26th at what time?
10 a.m. or sooner?
The day's short either way, so I would rather do it earlier. But
Okay, then.
that's
But
up
that's
to you.
another day that that you don't want to be out early.
Yeah, but if the day's gone, the day's gone. I think
Okay.
you have to
9
just-
o'clock?
Yeah, 9
October
o'clock is
26th at 9 AM?
9
Yeah.
a.m.
Because it'll
Okay.
take us until noon probably to do all 5 places.
Yeah.
So October 25th, 9 AM,
October 26th.
26th.
26th, yeah.
Thank
At
you.
9 AM, you're gonna do a tour of the facilities.
Yeah,
Where
And
are
then
we
you-
gonna meet?
Meet here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna have to hitch a ride with somebody, because I'm
yeah,
not driving.
I'll pick you up and drop you off.
Thank you,
No problem.
I appreciate it.
So I think that's a good idea.
Well, the other thing that I don't know if everybody realizes is that we are not to talk to each other between meetings to discuss anything that's gonna come to a vote,
Okay.
okay? Just so everybody's clear.
I won't.
You won't?
And I'll have more information to give out at the October meeting.
Okay.
That's gonna make us really be builders.
Well,
Okay, so I need a motion
Motion to adjourn?
to adjourn.
So moved.
I second.
Favor?
All in favor? Aye.